Welcome to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. for our Citrus TV view from the booth, although we're not in a booth. In fact, we're not even in an arena. We're outside.
And it's cold. I'd rather be in a booth.
It is cold. What wasn't cold was Michael Carter-Williams in a Sweet 16 matchup against Indiana. A career-high 24 points, and it's interesting given what's going on off the court with in his personal life.
Yeah, I mean, he had to deal with just so much before that game. Remember, against Cal, he looked up into the stands, saw his parents with tears in their eyes, learned after the game his house caught fire, lost a lot of his valuable possessions in that house. So he had all that on his mind facing Indiana. That's a tough enough challenge as it is. And for him to score a career-high 24 points, hit some long-distance threes that Coach Boeheim even said he didn't think that those three-pointers would go in. It almost seemed like he had something else behind that performance. It was so good to see him finally hit some jump shots.
Sometimes when players have those problems off the court, it sometimes helps them to focus. So that certainly seemed to be the case there with the career performance for Carter-Williams, leading Syracuse in what was pretty much a defensive game and domination over Indiana. Moving on to Marquette, this is a grunge match now. Yes. Syracuse lost to Marquette on February 25th in Milwaukee. And so now they have a chance to not only punch their ticket to the Final Four, but also get that one back.
In that game, though, it was Marquette that had the second half. Syracuse, if you recall, almost had a double-digit lead in that first half. Marquette fought its way back. Devontae Gardner was unstoppable, barely missed a shot. He's such a big guy. He's 295 pounds, even maybe a little bit more, maybe a hot dog under 300, you never know. But he is a force underneath the basket. Rakeem Christus and Baikeda have to make some adjustments. Syracuse's zone, which you've heard a lot about throughout this weekend, will have to find a way to adjust to stop him, and also the guards for Marquette as well.
It is worth noting, Buzz Williams, the head coach for Marquette, said he doesn't expect Devontae Gardner to have that kind of day. He doesn't think Syracuse thinks Devontae Gardner to have that kind of day. The reason why? He hasn't played that well before, hasn't played that well since.
But hey, never know. Devontae Gardner was a matchup nightmare.
It was. Now moving on, this is a team that Syracuse knows well, and they know Syracuse well. Part of the reason SU is so successful against the Hoosiers is because they didn't know each other that well. The 2-3 zone caught Indiana by surprise.
Yeah, Indiana and Cal. Cal was also really helpless against the zone. Indiana wasn't familiar with Syracuse's 2-3 zone. Again, Syracuse's zone is so much different than any other team's zone that you almost have to qualify it by saying Syracuse's zone. But now Marquette has seen that Syracuse zone, so for Marquette, they won't be scared. They'll be a little bit more decisive, but it goes both ways. Syracuse is also familiar with Marquette.
With the Capitol just a few blocks away, he's WAER's Chris Lewis, and I'm Citrus TV's Kevin Barry. Be sure to follow along for all our content on Twitter at CitrusTV Sports, and also be sure to check out our sports blog at sportsblog.citrustv.net. We're also on Foursquare, Instagram, and Facebook.
That's a lot of places.